right? That's what games can do. I wanted to take this medium and do something positive. And sure, I didn't think anything would happen with it, to be dead honest with you. I thought, oh yeah, I'm full of piss and vinegar right now. I'm full of it, and I'm going to convince some people to come along for the ride. I got these 2 young kids. Everyone's calling me Svengali. That's okay. And then I got to meet Catherine Winkler, the matriarch of Switch Interactive, a little design firm in Vancouver. And I pitched it, and she was like, wow, this would be a great portfolio piece for us. I really believe in its philosophical message. Go for it. And they supported us for the first 6 chapters. After that, it just blossomed. It mushroomed. It ballooned. We won awards. We got noticed in major publications like Entertainment Weekly, Hollywood Reporter, USA Today, and people started coming to the site in droves, just out of curiosity. Well, as you know, the double-edged sword of internet popularity is that the more popular you get and the more files and data that gets downloaded from your site, the more it costs you. You have to go through a middleman, a service provider. And we were doing upwards of 10 gigs a day at $10 a gig. Ourselves. We were paying for that out of our own pockets after we said goodbye to Switch Interactive. We had to leave because they wanted to focus on commercial projects, and we saw this groundswell of support for the project, and I knew that I could not forgive myself when I was on said deathbed if I didn't finish this, because the story was in there and it was burning a hole in me. So since then, let's see, we moved away from Switch in May of 2001 and continued on our own in Ian Kirby's basement. His parents have been very kind, providing us with tea and snacks, and basically letting us take over the entire basement to do this. And it's been a wonderful arrangement as we continue to get more and more popular and reach more and more people. Now that's great, but now sometimes we're doing 25 or 30 gigs a day. That's a lot of information. That's a lot of money. And eventually, we had to swallow our pride because we were dirt poor and living on one thing of ramen noodles a day. Pardon the stereotype, but it's true. We were starving artists. We actually started asking for donations from our fans. Not in your face, hey, hey, hey. We wouldn't allow for the advertising. We didn't want our stuff to be co-opted because films now, TV now, books now, anything that has a large media machine behind it, it taints what you're making. The medium has been affected by the commercialism of it. And everyone thinks, oh yeah, banner ads on sites, that's how you make money. Or, hey, subscription site, great. And sure, one hand says, if people have to pay for something, they'll find more value in it. But I honestly believe that if we could create something that was different, that was free, that was by donation if it moved people, it would affect them deeply over time. It seems to have done its job. We've received over $10,000 in donations from our fans, people that we've never met. Not just sending $5 through PayPal or a check in the mail, anywhere up to $500 from a stranger who just says, thanks, I don't want any thanks back, here, just love what you're doing, keep going, finish it. We've done a series of benefit concerts locally in Vancouver that have raised, again, over $8,000. Bands donating their time and their performances, fans coming in of the band's end of our site and donating their money. We have completed 20 chapters of Broken Saints, 8 hours of free material and storytelling that some people are saying is revolutionary. We have 4 chapters left, 2 hours of material before we finish, and when it's done, we can talk about that in a few minutes. Now what we have here is the Broken Saints story wheel, the clock that ties. It's a theme throughout the series, and if you watch the whole series, you'll see how everything in the site and everything in each chapter ties together in this slow to build but tightly woven story that builds in an exponential arc. Those are the stories that I've always loved. My biggest influences, another question I'm sure you'll ask, Twin Peaks, The Prisoner. Okay, I like episodic television that had a cliffhanger aspect to it. It was really compelling to me, that questioned technological structures, social structures, spiritual structures. And I love language. I love Shakespeare. I love what Chomsky has to say about the effect of language on modern society. As far as films, I love the work of people like Lynch and like Terry Gilliam. The first film that made me realize I was alive was a little movie back in, I think, 1986 or maybe 84, Time Bandits from Terry Gilliam. All right, here was a story, a dark fable that twisted off with comedy but actually questioned your place in society, that questioned your place in the great whole, and didn't have a happy ending in the end. And here's a kid going, wow, I've been fed all this candy and schlock, and all of a sudden here's something that's making me question my place in the universe. Stories can be told like this. Most of us don't know that. We aren't exposed to that. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, and you understand, but the average person doesn't. And if this series, in its anime style, with its graphic novel content, if it's going to appeal to people in their teens who aren't yet in the choir, who really don't know what direction to take in life, who've only been exposed to a limited amount of information and artistic style and educational or spiritual content. When I was 14 or 15 or 16, if something like this came around, I might have gotten some direction. My parents weren't going to give me any spiritual direction. Back then, you just went to church because you did. You were training to get a job. You're going to school to get A's, so you could go to university to get more A's so you could get a job afterwards. That's what you were meant to do, right? Work, 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 die. And then I realized I wanted something different. Now each chapter has a chapter cover that opens up like a comic book, but again, in a cinematic style. That's why we prefer to call it cinematic literature. Now they range in length from, 10 minutes up to something like, 45 minutes or 40 minutes. And people say, well, how is that interactive? You're not letting them click during the movie. How is that interactive? My justification for that is that, okay, they're sitting in front of their computer, they cannot pause the movie, they cannot fast forward through it. They are forced, if they want to get maximum enjoyment and really reap the rewards of Broken Saints, they are forced in these 10 to 12 minute chunks of each act to completely focus on what is happening. What is that type of focus parallel to? Meditation. We are creating a hypnotic space where people are imagining they are witnessing something, but they aren't hearing voices, they're creating the voices in their head. The music that we use, the sonic landscape, is again very trippy and hypnotic, and the visuals slowly lure them into the climax of each act or chapter. These little meditations, if you have the attention span, and yes, we're in the days of ADD or ADHD, and we say, oh, no one can pay attention to anything for more than 5 minutes anymore. My parents were telling me that when I was 12, okay? There are people out there. There are cultural differences. Yes, I'll agree. Europeans and South Americans and Asians tend to like our series a lot more and stick with it than North Americans do. Why? Because we've been pounded by downloadable chunks of information, quicker, faster, better, harder, now. Right? Well, I'm fighting against the grain a little bit. Is it going to be a mass success? Maybe not. I don't care. Can I touch a few people who are tired of being barraged by the MTV generation? Tired of being barraged by senseless images? Sexuality, purchases, corporate sponsorships? We do call it cinematic literature for a reason. A lot of our movements and fades and shot framings and developments and plot arcs are very cinematic in nature. Fans have said, and this is how I felt when I've read comics, especially late at night or hiding from my parents or sitting outside or I couldn't sleep, especially if it was a really, really good story. I wouldn't just imagine voices in my head. I would create a soundtrack or some sort of feeling or some sort of ambience in my mind to help add to the mood to get me more immersed. And here was a chance to actually do it for real. And I was lucky that the first chunk of music we were able to get access to was, again, a back catalog of my cousin's that had never been heard. He had just done these special little pieces for fun. He's like, I never really promoted it. I didn't think anyone would really like it. And I'm just going, oh my God, this is beautiful, powerful music. Let me, gimme, please. So. Do you know what's very interesting is that our fans are 60% female. Read through this. If you watch through this series, I totally understand why you would think that upon first impression. My artist, Andrew, is a huge fan of Japanese anime. And if you watch any anime, you will see the waifish look and you will see a bit of exposure without it being really sexual. What you will also see in the really good pieces, like Ghost in the Shell, like Evangelion, like Perfect Blue, the Japanese anime art form almost always empowers women and sees them as the center of power, the superior that men are always either trying to impress or the women are saving them. The focus of this story actually are these three wayward, lost men who are brought together and focused and faceted and crystallized by the emotional strength of this woman. And in the end, she becomes the key protagonist. I don't want to give, I really want to like soothe your fears and give away something. Let's just say you'll be very, very happy at the end of the series. Very happy. Because that's the way I view it. Come on, let's be realistic. I think that, and this is not to impress anybody here, who's the real boss socially and who should be? You know, you live longer, you have better left-right brain pathways, better communication skills, you're more resilient, you're more adaptable. Pound for pound, you're actually stronger. You give birth, all right? We set up the whole patriarchy in the first place because we were scared of the truth. I say let's go back and let women rule, man. I'm all about that. And that's part of the thing in the series too, for sure. It's really about tapping back into that feminine side that not only have we lost individually, I think, as males for sure, but we've also lost in Western culture because it's all been about technology, about invasion, about hardness. And it's about these three very rough characters in their own way finding softness, and she guides them there. But at the same time, we also get to see female ferocity. And as anyone will tell you, you know, beware a woman scorned. Because female strength is a formidable thing and it can change the world. And that's something I really wanted to include in the series. Yes? Basically, once I hit about 20, when I moved out to Vancouver and did the whole writing, acting, directing thing, then I got really depressed for a period of time. And one thing, and you can judge me however you want, but one thing about living on the West Coast, specifically in Vancouver, is you move out there, invariably you will start to smoke pot.